What's going on today, guys? We're going to do one of my favorite things in this hobby, and that is to take a reasonably priced FRN Spyderco and then go to the moon with it. This video could not have been done without RC Blade Works. Thank you so much. We have two sets of scales here that are custom made. Probably will not be made again because I sent him some Thunderstrike Kevlar, if you remember that. Oh, good Lord. And you see we have two sets here. Stay to the end of the video. You might like what you see. He makes this conversion kit where you can take the FRN. It comes with the backspacer and pin. You can get in touch with him, order your two materials that you like together. I bought the MXG gear clip. We'll be refinishing this to match the Indela that we did here. This is an RC Blade Works Mexican blanket insert with natural micarta. So with the help of some Jocko Go, let's get started. Let's start with unbagging these scales and put some mineral oil on them. I know the color doesn't completely make sense when you see it like this. You gotta be careful. There is a little pin in there. I'm gonna leave it in this Ziploc baggie because we're gonna oil the backspacer as well. This is a fairly easy kit to install, but you do have to do it in certain steps. Otherwise, it's a lot harder than it needs to be. Stay tuned to the end of the video. Oh, look at that. If that's not ASMR, I'm destroying it by talking. So I'm wiping way too much on, and then we're gonna wipe off everything. Man. Ideally, I'd just like to dunk them in there. I like to use mineral oil for this. Mineral oil doesn't really spoil. It's food safe. It doesn't stink. I brought out the Renaissance wax because I thought maybe it would be a great idea to wax these things. But this is not food safe, and it really has an odor to it that it's not bad once you put it on there and wipe most of it off. But it does leave a lingering like chemical smell. I love it on my slip joint bone and brass and bolsters, but it's not food safe, and this is probably not a great application, but we'll do another video where we do some slip joint maintenance. So before we wipe that off too much, I'm loving that color. Wow, let's just get a quick little preview. We got to wipe that off, and you'll see it's going to get a little brighter as we let it dry. So his kit comes with this backspacer. I just love the custom options that he has and that he's able to do. And just a great guy. I appreciate him for sending two sets of scales out. Hint, 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 without the bots taking over. Okay, stay to the end of the video. We're going to dry this stuff off. Want to really give you a look at that Thunderstrike Kevlar. Man. I had him drill no lanyard hole and right side tip up carry only. I think the hardest part about this job will be refinishing that MXG gear clip to give it a semi-satin finish, just like I did on this Indela, to kind of match the satin blade. So let's go ahead and get this thing apart. The smartest way usually is to pop the blade open. We're gonna take a T8. We're gonna twist this pivot out. You really have to follow these instructions kind of along. Otherwise, you could have a misaligned backspacer. Disassembly is not so important, but also I have found that taking apart knives, this is usually the best way. So once you pop that screw, we're gonna relieve the back pressure off of this. There's not a whole lot there because of the boil dent, but you can still relieve that tension, push the pivot out, okay? And then slowly pull your blade out, and then you can release this. Be careful to not crush your bronze phosphor washers in there. So now we have this separated. Now we go ahead and take the T6. I like Weehaw bits. I don't know why I got the drivers. I wish I would have just got the bit set, because then you could just keep buying new bits. Because my T6 probably needs to be replaced. They're not terribly expensive to just buy this set, but It is a little quicker when you have the individual drivers, just because you're not swapping out bits, but I think for the average person, the bits is gonna be the better option. Just gonna set that aside so I don't get those screws mixed up with the body screws. Now we just unscrew all of these. Spyderco's FRN models do have a D barrel, so the barrel does not spin in there. So you can do it with one driver, which is a really nice detail. Thank you, Spyderco. On the wrist today is my F91W that I put a conversion kit on here so you can wear a strap with it. Love this watch. Nice and simple, thin. Good Lord. You guys didn't know you was gonna get a watch review in the middle of a knife build, did you? We're just gonna lift this up, pull off this plastic, set it aside, and now we gotta pop these barrels out. And right here you can see the D-shaped liner that's on the liner here that prevents that barrel from spinning. Really nice detail. So FRN Spyderco's can be a little tricky because this piece right here in the backspacer can break when you're reassembling them. So there is a trick, and we will show it to you. Let's go ahead and get these washers off. We're gonna clean everything up. This is a very fast process. If I wasn't making a video on this, I could probably do it in about 10 minutes or so. So take that spring out. Keep in mind how you took it out of there. I can tell because I've taken so many of them apart, but you'll see a long flat part and then it'll curve up. But this will not fit in well if you try to do it backwards when you do the reassembly, right? This is gonna be all the way to the back of that back spacer, and that's what gives you the spring for the back lock. So we can get this spring out. Here's the back spacer, and you can see how RC Blade Works kit is going to work with that extra pin that we kept nice and safe inside the baggie. So let's pop this out. We can get rid of the plastic bits. Take a little sip of your Jocko Go. This part is essential. Get after it. Jocko's awesome. One heck of an American example of greatness. So I'm just cleaning this stuff up. We still have some mineral oil in there, it's fine. Maybe even preferable to help some corrosion on this stainless steel liner. Here's the lock back bar. I used to do a lot of this stuff, and I think I want to return back to this type of stuff, because when you break down the knife like this, you can really get a feel for how everything is cut and manufactured. They used to, on their back locks, make this a circle cut here to distribute the pressure all the way around. It's still not quite a square cut. It's a little bit round there, but I wonder why they went away from that. Again, if I'm not mistaken, and I very well could be. Carry on, let's clean the blade up. If you want to, if you have gunk on there, you can use something like Goof Off, but I don't need it. Everything looks nice and clean here. Here we go, is a example of that cutout. It's funny, I just mentioned that about the lock bar. You can see it on the blade here. See how that's cut out into a round like this? That is because the shear point of this and this, right? You're putting blade down to try to close the blade, and the back lock's jammed in there. All that pressure goes to this little hook right here, right? And they have this round because if it was straight, that straight would be a shear point for cracking and ripping this little nub off. But because they have put this little bit of a radius in here, it strengthens this area in that it distributes any pressures here all the way around this area because it's round and not square, if that makes sense. Same with the front here. It's funny that I thought they used to do it on the lockback bar as well, but maybe they don't need it because the steel is so thick there. you're not in any danger of shearing off that little nub, you know. Just a nice little detail. I'm gonna rub some mineral oil to kind of clean this blade off while we can. Sometimes it feels like I am explaining stuff that might be fairly obvious to some people. I don't know. I try to make my videos so that anybody who's brand new, this is their first knife video they have ever watched, comes away, you know, learning something that I know from over my past few years of experience here. So it may seem annoying to some folks, like, yeah, we've heard that a couple times from you. These are actually not dirty at all, so I'm just gonna wipe them off. And that's one thing you're gonna find out about me. When I'm doing my own knives, I am not that crazy. If this was a customer's knife, I would be polishing those washers. If it's my knife, it's gonna go in my pocket and get used. I'll polish it over time. I know these instructions seem very specific, but I'm trying to help you do this in the proper way, a way that it won't frustrate you, okay? I have a little bit of experience doing this stuff, and these FRNs can be difficult if you don't follow the exact procedure. What we're doing is we're taking the show side and we're gonna poke the barrel pivots through, because Spyderco keeps the smooth face on the show side, right? So that the backside has the screw heads, and the D-shaped liner stops the barrels from spinning so we can have this smooth show side. Thank you, Spyderco. So because this is freshly milled and because it's made to very tight tolerances, it's smart to go ahead and put your barrels in first, skipping the lock bar one. You'll see why. This is very crucial to the step. And then you might need a set of pliers. Be very gentle on your touch. And if you do have to grip the barrel, grip it towards the scale to twist it. And I'm saying that because you see this liner is like a D-shaped pivot here. So I have already matched up these other three. I hope this is making sense. If you're following along at home, I promise you this is the way. Instead of trying to feed it through this tight scale and also spinning in and maybe marring up this barrel, this is just the way, okay? So now we have this built. Make sure all your fit is nice and flush in here, okay? It's gonna be a tight fit, but his milling is right on the money. And you'll see when it starts to come together, and you put everything in here. Again, you want this stuff a tight fit. Just press it in there. That micarta will give you not quite an airtight fit, but you'll see what I'm talking about when you do it. Okay, so now, very important, we're gonna take this back spacer, go ahead and put it over the 3 slots. Most of the work is already done now. I would wait to put the blade in before we take that little pin out. You don't want to lose that thing. Now take your Chris Reeve fluorinated grease, whatever you're going to use. That's way too much. Like using the fluorinated grease. Make sure you have you a clean toothpick. Go ahead and put a little bit on there. We're going to put it around the barrel. You don't need a whole lot. If you want to, you could polish up these washers. Take the side that's already been like work worn if you're using an older knife, and you want the work worn, the polished surface going towards the blade. Important because you've already broke that in, so you won't have to break that in again. Because realistically, these washers don't really slide on the liner. They slide on the blade alone. So they do a little bit of both, but it's mostly on the blade portion there. So I'm taking just a little bit more fluorinated grease here, or whatever you want to use, and I'm putting it around the barrel, putting some on the barrel. And then for this, I wipe just a little bit on the hole. You don't want to go crazy, because when you put it on the barrel screw here, it could fall inside there, and now your pivot's wanting to loosen up. But we are going to put a little bit of Loctite on here, so it's not that big of a deal. If you want to, you can go ahead and put a little bit on the blade here. And I do mean a little bit. You don't need a lot on there. We've already put it on here. We're going to put it on the other side and the other side. You don't want to put too much because you don't want it falling into your lock area. That could just be a lint magnet for lint to get stuck in your locking mechanism. Don't want that. Let's put it on there. Make sure everything feels nice. Yep. Now let's go ahead and do the same for this washer. It's a very important step of how this thing goes together, because if you skip some steps and you do it how you think it would be done, you can cause yourself a lot of headaches. On the scales though, RC Blade Works has a video pretty much like this. It's a lot shorter, so it's probably better, right? So now let's not forget this part. This is crucial. You'll snap your scale if you don't put this in now. So we've greased the top and the bottom. We've got a nice smooth action here, right? Now we take out this little this little bitty, perfectly cut pin, okay? And we're gonna drop it in this hole. And this is what supports the bottom of that backspacer. That's gonna drop right in there. And what that pin does is it catches this area in the liner, okay? And that prevents this spring from snapping your backspacer off. That's where a lot of people go wrong when they're rebuilding their FRNs. This plastic snaps right off. I believe Spyderco sells these backspacers all the time, so just be careful. So remember this spring, long part here. Put it back as far as you can go. You see it snugged right up in there. So let's give you an up-close personal look of how we're looking so far. You can see we got the spring ready to go. We've got the grease on there. We have not put the backspacer in yet. Let's keep in mind that the flat part is mostly down. That's going to be very important. You'll see why in a second, because we're going to go ahead and close this knife up. What? Without the backspacer? Yes. This is the best way to do it. I promise you. Jocko Go told me so. I'm kidding. Pop it on there like this so you can see everything that you're looking at. So make sure everything is registered on the D pivot there. This will pull through when we start tightening it down. Do not panic. Again, no backspacer yet. Make sure that the area here for the backspacer, not backspacer, the back lock. I mistalk a lot in my videos. So that pin is completely captured on both sides. That's very important. You don't want to break your backspacer. And I do mean backspacer this time. Once that pin is completely in where it needs to be on both sides, you can then put your show side on. And yes, we're still not putting in the back lock yet. This is very important. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the pivot, go back to our Weehaw 8, T8. If you follow any of my videos, you know I like to spin backwards until it clicks. Then I go forwards. And that way I'm not going to get any cross threading. Now we're not gorilla tightening this. As soon as I feel a little bit of pressure, I'm stopping. Okay. We still have the barrel. And save another screw for the top there. We should have these. And usually on these new Spydercos, you'll see one screw has locktite on it. That's going to be for the lock back. Okay, so let's set this aside for the lock back. We're going to put these 3 screws in just to hold things in place. Not even tight. We're just getting it there so it doesn't move. We might still need to center the blade. We need to take a look at some things. Thank you for taking the ride. We're done. Didn't work. Nope. I'm kidding. So here we have how it's going to look. Man, she's gorgeous. I'm going to go ahead and tighten this pivot screw. Look how much it's sticking out here. So we didn't even finger tight this thing. It's not even really tight yet, and it's almost getting there. All right. Action, none of this matters right now. All we're doing right here is moving the fluorinated grease around. You don't want to slam this into your backspacer though. What we're going to do is we're going to feed this through here, flat part facing mostly down. You might want to tape up your scales so you don't scratch them, but it might take a little bit of fiddling to do. Again, this is the hardest part of the build. There it went. Takes a little bit of fiddling. Do you see how it's starting to poke through right there? I don't want to go any more than that. I know this is registered and I can push my thumb in and that will capture this. Now this is the trickiest part of the entire build, because what you have to do is push down on this lock bar, and you're going to have to bend that spring down with your thumb tension alone, as you have another hand, okay, that pushes this down. It's not too hard, it's just a little tricky because you're trying to hit this hole and you're trying to feed this through here, but you also have to break that spring tension. It's not easy, but it's not impossible either. It just takes a little bit of fiddling and a little bit of finger strength. This is the hardest part, but this is the best way to make sure that your pin is in both sides of this back, right? It also makes sure that your little tiny washers and everything are not going to get pinched and tacoed. So this is a necessary evil to put these FRN knives together. Dang, it feels like it's right there. I wish I had another person here because I could almost just tell them to push down on that. So I'm gonna do it like this. So off camera, that was not too bad. I just wasn't able to push it down and push it on the table. So anyways, I got it to pop through. I'm gonna try to go a little bit tighter on this because I wanna pull that barrel all the way through. And even now, we're not gonna know what true center looks like yet, even though we're not too far off, but I haven't even started to tighten up these pivots yet. Let's pull them through first. And to not script, I need some more Jocko Go. I'm mixing my words. So to not strip screws, put pressure as you're screwing it. So all I'm doing here is trying to pull these barrels down into this freshly milled micarta. Let's do this one. T8. All right, there's tight. Back off a little bit. Let's just see where it's, oh, good Lord. What I like to do is get the knife completely dialed in to make sure it's going to be dialed in, okay? And then we take each screw off individually and we put some Loctite on there. That's just always been the best way that I have found to build a knife. That way we're not putting Loctite in and building Loctite up. It's still a little tight on the pivot. So I'm gonna loosen this up just a little bit. Oh, that's butter. This will break in over time. It's a lock back. They usually don't like flick underneath. They can once they're broken in, or if you have a little bit of side to side blade play on them, you know, if you got your pivot that loose, but I don't like them that loose. This thing is ridiculous. Man, I love that Thunder Strike. If you remember, that was like the lightning strike, but this is the Kevlar version of it. It's got like copper wire running through it. And every now and then a wire might pop loose, so you just snip those off. But I don't feel any on this. I'm just saying that it can happen because we have a giveaway set. We're gonna do it at the end of the video. So, all right, let's go ahead and put some Loctite on this and the pivot. Shake this stuff up. Make sure you're using the blue. This is Permatex, but if you're using Thread Locker, it's the blue one. Sometimes they come in a red container, but it will say blue. I don't know why they do that, but make sure it's blue. That's the temporary stuff. You do not want the red that is permanent. Blue Loctite, you'll be able to get it loose later. Believe me. That's what you want. So now that we know this is dialed in for action, and let's see what centering looks like. You tell me, bud. Good enough for me. You could fiddle a little more if you wanted to. Let's go ahead and see if we can get that out of there. My first instinct is to just bend it. Just taco it a little bit. See if that... I'll do a whole video on centering at some point. Because there's all kinds of tricks you can do with the backspacer and putting pressure up here and down here and loosening pivot and backspacers, and then you can do the same on this side, or you can take the washers out, take the knife and flip the washers. Sometimes flip the bearing. Sometimes a bearing will need to get flipped like this. I don't know why. Sometimes that will recenter the blade. I'm just telling you, there's a whole nother video in the art of centering a knife. And sometimes it's as easy as bending the frame just a little bit. We do it in auto body all the time. If your door's not closing right and everything's tight and your adjustments are all right, sometimes you do have to take that door frame, your car door, from the top window area and the bottom of the door and just tweak it just a little bit so then it closes on the door right. I know, sounds crazy, sounds primitive, sounds wonky-doo, like that's not possible, but I promise you it's how things have to be done sometimes. Doesn't really matter if this is opened or closed. And we're gonna take the pressure off here. We know the knife is dialed in. All we're gonna do is put some Loctite on here. So we're gonna back this back off. We're in no danger of this knife just popping apart and just exploding on us because it's already through there. So what I like to do, put this on here, capture both sides of your hand. It's already loaded on the driver. Rub the front around. Got a little bit on there, and then I do a dot on the napkin to take off that little blob that's right there. So now we don't have it oozing all in our pivot. So now we're gonna make sure that this is dialed in again. A little too tight. And once you get this thing dialed in, as hard as it is, you gotta leave the thing alone and let that thread locker dry. Again, mixing my words, so a little more Jocko go. Still a little tight. Let's see how the side to side, because sometimes that tightness is in this lock bar, the back lock section. We definitely do not have any wiggle there, so I'm gonna back off just a little bit. So sometimes it's tempting once you thread lock things to go ahead and throw it in your pocket. And you can, it's not a hard set, that feels a lot better. It's not a hard set rule, but if you want that thread locker to work as well as it can, you gotta let it dry. I like that, I'm very satisfied with that. Centering looks great to me. If it looks a little off at the tip, it's because they're chisel ground serrations, right? So the point's a little to this side. You see it? What a knife. Now we complete this thing with an MX G gear clip. And I'm gonna refinish it with some sandpaper because right now it is lost. Oh, here we go. Let's set this aside because I also like to put blued thread locker on my pocket clips. Screws. And you can see Spyderco does too. See that blue around there? They put a little bit on theirs. Looks like we have a couple sets of screws, a long set and a short set. I'm just gonna use what the factory had in there and see if they're long enough to reach down into that liner. Sometimes you do have to use their screws because the clip, the titanium bent over clip is a little thicker than the Spyderco clip. So we'll see. But I wanna show this to you first. Take some sandpaper, we're gonna just satin this thing up. 60 grit, baby! Really put some deep scratches into it because hand sanding is not for me. Looks fantastic. If you can see that satin starting to come along. Use what you have though. You don't have to go buy sandpaper. Just use whatever you have on hand. Unless you don't have any, but lower grit. Thanks, Jocko. Let's go ahead and pull it all the way around. Oh man, beautiful. So what we're gonna do is take this 60. Now we'll go back to that 320. Refine some of those scratches a little bit. I could leave it at 60 grit. I like that satin, deep, scratchy, worn look. But let's go ahead and try to make it nice. Keep in mind, I'm trying to keep these strokes vertical here. They're following along the clip. We'll do this back and around. And that should give us this nice curvature around there, all satined up. See how it looks? Yeah, you could just keep it right there. I'm gonna go a little bit above and beyond. Put it on this, some Scotch-Brite. Let's go ahead and pull straight, right? And Scotch-Brite up this finish. Give it a little bit of a sheen, a satin sheen. If you can't see what I'm doing, I'm coming around. And now, let's go ahead and do this dip area here. I'm emphasizing this little lip right here. And I think I'm ready to install this thing. We'll clean it up and install it. And you can get as crazy as you want to on this. I'm just going so it kind of matches, you know? I'm not, this is a working knife. A beautiful working knife, but it is a working knife. So let's go ahead and pop this. We're gonna spray this. Whoa, that's some pressure. It's so hot out here. Take our rag again. Wipe off that goof off. Then what we can do is get a new surface here to not dirty up our knife. Get that Loctite back out. This is kind of another little trick to these clips. These can be a little bit tricky. I have always found if you feed them through and put them in the holes first. Also could satin inside this pivot, inside the clip here if you wanted to. I didn't do that. Oh, Mr. Bud. So now we have these all lined up in here, right? Be careful, they can fall out. If you touch them like I just did, you can be a dummy and pop everything that you did and your life's ruined. Just ruined. Throw the whole thing away. Put another little dab will do you, bud. Not too much on here. So what I'm gonna do is drag this through here. We'll make this a production. 3 little dots there. That gets the juice off the tip. These are technical terms. You're welcome to use them. And then we're going to drop this in here. We're going to take our T6. So T6 or T8. Oh, gosh, dang it. Oh, my Lord. We are almost there. Okay. Give yourself a hand. Okay. There it is. And I'm going to take this blade out just to make sure that we're fully biting the liner here. Yeah, that's a perfect. It's not too much in there. It's not poking through. And now what you do is once this is starting to get tight, go ahead and center up. However you want this clip, you do have a little bit of wiggle room, right? I like it about, for me personally, I like it to center the inlay here. Now I probably just scratched out my brand new satin clip. And now that I know it's not, I don't want to cut myself, so I'm going to close the blade back. And let's tighten this daddy again, keeping pressure on these screw heads so they don't strip. Make sure that clip has no slop in it. Nice and centered or Loctite. Congratulations, folks, on a job well done. Thank you to RC Blade Works for making this possible. And he sent an extra set to do a giveaway. Just making this up off the top of my head. When you put some mineral oil on these things, this will become a nice deep burgundy. And again, with my Kevlar that I've had for probably 10 years, I think this will be the only set like it. We're doing a giveaway on this set, courtesy of rcbladeworks.com. Please check him out. But let's go ahead and tag this video with RC Blade Works Sharp. I'll pick a winner soon. Let's give it like 2 weeks and then we'll do the giveaway on this set. And that's courtesy of RC Blade Works. Again, I appreciate him for the support. And look how awesome this thing come out. Man, this will not be the last time you guys see this thing. And I appreciate you guys for making all of this possible as well, because I wouldn't be making these videos if you didn't watch. So again, RC Blade Works Sharp in the description below. Tell me this is not an awesome Endura. Good Lord. This thing is going to go in my pocket. I knew that green and this Kevlar Thunderstrike would really just feel right at home together. And I think he did a great job picking out this burgundy too. And actually this burgundy would go perfectly on that new Sprint Run with the black blade. I think it's the Micro Melt Sprint Run Endura with the black DLC blade. Man. All right, guys, I really do appreciate you hanging out. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. These videos are my favorite to make. And let me know what you think about this knife, about the giveaway. And just let me know how you're feeling. Do you like Jocko Go? I love it. All right, guys. See ya.